government announces 16 billion kina budget. Opposition lobbies to form alternative government. And injured police officer appeals to hierarchy for support.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening to Tuesday's news. Thanks for your company. We will go live later on in the bulletin to join our lay crew covering the 2014 PNG Games. You can look forward to that. 16.2 billion kina. This is the total national budget for Papua New Guinea for 2015. Treasury Secretary Dari Vele made this known to the media and stakeholders during the traditional national budget press lock-up at Parliament House this morning. MTV's Delibago reports.
The government has announced a total 2015 budget of 16.2 billion kina. This is an increase of 7% from 2014 and by far the biggest budget the country has ever had. Presenting the 2015 budget strategy and framework, Secretary for Treasury Dari Vele said the budget will also comprise a deficit of 2.3 billion kina or 4.4% of GDP. It will also comprise a total public debt to GDP ratio of 28% in 2015.
Part of this is building our country because we can. Part of it is building our country because we deserve to.
The Minister for Treasury Patrick Pruich also announced a 2014 supplementary budget of 879.3 million kina. He said the supplementary budget was necessary to ensure the government's priority areas are met. Mr. Pruich said both the 2015 budget and the 2014 supplementary budget were fiscally responsible.
The 2015 budget and 2014 supplementary budget are being delivered amid robust but complex economic circumstances. Domestically, our economy faces challenges and globally uncertainties remain. At the same time, we cannot understate the opportunity to build our nation and substantially improve our socio-economic development through providing opportunities for our people.
Again, education and health get the biggest allocations from the government's purse. Education gets 2.1 billion kina, an increase from last year's 1.8 billion kina. Health also gets an increase from 1.6 billion kina to 1.9 billion kina this year. Law and Order is allocated 1.5 billion kina, also an increase from 2014. Last year, the agriculture and economic sector got 836 million kina. This time around, the sector has been allocated less, 704 million kina. Mr. Pruich explained that the 2014 supplementary budget caters mainly for the Pacific Games, the Lae and Port Moresby roads, and the PNG Power. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea's 2015 national budget is a responsible budget. This is because the government's priorities have been clearly outlined. According to Treasury Secretary Dari Vele, all steps have been taken to ensure that spending is controlled so that the benefits from the country's wealth can be felt across the nation. Speaking to NTV News during the 2015 national budget lock-up today, Secretary Vele commended all parties involved in developing the country's money plan.
With a record 16.2 billion kina budget for 2015, Secretary Vele was quick to heap praise on all stakeholders who worked behind the scenes to come up with the country's money plan. Whilst acknowledging that not all sectors got exactly what they had submitted for, Secretary Vele defended the budget process, saying the budget was aimed at empowering citizens of PNG.
So what we were hoping to do was to kind of consolidate and make sure that we get the gains from 2014, and we go to 2015, 2016, and then obviously elections happen in 2017, and then you never know what happens there. So in terms of 2014, we're going to close it out the right way. I think there's a lot of conjecture about the fact that we didn't make as much money as we were hoping to, and the budget expenditures or priorities that increased beyond what they were supposed to. So I think there was a lot of suspicion that we would be closing out in a negative way, but we can say that the O'Neill Dion government and of course the Vulupindi House ministers have taken some very tough measures, and primarily taking a lot of the wastage from the lower priority projects and transferring them into our higher priority project.
With the theme Building Our Nation and Providing Opportunities for Our People, the 2015 National Budget focuses on improving opportunities for our people by improving the investment climate of our country, whilst at the same time recognizing the need for macroeconomic stability, further promoting the efficient and effective implementation of major projects, increasing direct funding to provinces and districts with more emphasis on monitoring, evaluation and compliance, continuing to support policy priorities in education, health, infrastructure, agriculture and SMEs, and continuing to strengthen the justice sector, adequately resourcing correction services, modernizing the police force and rebuilding the defense force. Secretary Vele says the progress of the 2015 national budget will be monitored. However, how effective the monitoring will be remains to be seen. Merbotulo, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, Bulala MP and Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil says the government's intention to increase DSIP allocations from 10 million kina to 15 million kina may have serious negative implications. Basil raised this concern following outstanding 2014 DSIP funds that haven't been paid to some of the districts.
2 billion kina.
Sam Basil says the 10 million kina DSIP that each district has been receiving since 2012 is adequate to run services in its districts if the funds are used wisely. Increasing the DSIP funds by 5 million kina may cause a serious budget deficiency, the deputy opposition leader says.
It's November, we are going December now. My Bulolo district only got 3 million for this year. If we cannot afford it, why increase? I'm comfortable with 10 million. If we cannot afford, let's stay at 10 million.
The deputy opposition leader says the government's intention to lift the current DSIP fund from 10 million kina to 15 million kina may have a serious implication on the districts that haven't received their outstanding district funds.
We can further save the deficit because we're looking at about 400-500 million on top of the current 890 million. We're going to go over 1 billion if we put another 5 million on top. I'm not saying it's no good. What I'm saying is that if we cannot afford it, why increase it?
Over the past 12 months, Sam Basil and other members of the opposition have been pushing hard for the release of their DSIP funds. Much of it have been withheld by the National Finance Department. Basil says the three-man opposition will also be keeping a close look on the budget, especially on the deficit level. Rural districts may see the 15 million kina increase as a relief, but the opposition's concern may stir up debate amongst other members of parliament. Places like Finsafen, Menyamia and Telefomin have much of their district's 10 million kina depleted by freight cost alone. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Leh.
The opposition has lobbied to form the alternative government to replace the O'Neill-Dion government. As of this morning, members of parliament crossed over to the opposition camp. So far, there are 8 members of parliament, with the opposition saying there are more expected to join soon.
While the focus was on the national budget lock-up, the opposition was busy cooking something up. They were lobbying to form the alternative government to Prime Minister Peter O'Neill's. Both the opposition leader Belden Nama and his deputy Sam Basil welcomed the move by some members of parliament.
Members of parliament who have joined opposition as joined government, the PNC party, basically because of their DSIP has been withheld or they've been threatened or intimidated by some sort, will now come to their senses and have their moral obligation to their people, and by making the right decision.
We can rewind the clock back to the Alatau camp. We have to rewind the clock back, and now we can form a new government that will reflect what they believe in. And they will have a say in that government as a true members of parliament.
Kandep MP and the party leader Don Polier joined the opposition with 2 of his members, Kikori MP Mark Maipakai and Raikos MP James Gao. Mr. Polier, in his set of reasons as to why he joined the opposition, said he moved as laws were constantly breached.
A prime minister in this country, and you know all of them, trying to manipulate and control the systems of governance in Papua New Guinea.
To stay in power.
To stay in power. I've never seen a prime minister breaking and fragmenting the royal constabulary of Papua New Guinea. I've never seen a prime minister intruding into the affairs of constitutional officers like the Ombudsman Commission, even trying to taint and to compromise the work of the public prosecutor. I've never seen them even going out and having lunch and tea with judges of the judicial system.
The opposition started off with 25 members of parliament. However, that number decreased over time as most members were allegedly deprived from accessing district services improvement funds, forcing them to join the government. So far, there are 8 members of the opposition, with 10 more expected to form the alternative government. The opposition has maintained that it's not about the numbers, but about ethics. Bridget Komateb, National EMTV News.
While many have gathered to spectate and take part in the PNG Games in Lae City, those in the informal sector have seen it as a money-making opportunity. Over 200 stalls were constructed next to sporting venues and occupied by vendors. Boy sellers and many kai bars expect to make a significant amount of personal income when the games end. Colleen Barile has this story.
5 days ago, this was what it looks like, just skeleton of structures. This is what it looks like today. While many have gathered here to watch the games, people like Maria Label are seeing the 2 weeks event as a money-making opportunity.
Me fry more lick sausage, banana, and lick income.
In recent years, much of the contribution in terms of cash flow has been attributed to the economic boom in the province. The PNG Games is an event that brings together people from all over Papua New Guinea. More people coming into the province means more money flowing into the province.
Making 1,500 this 2 weeks. Think they also supposed game start on no say. But no working plan this something working because me plan looking money big plan. Also money me plan system good lo market them plan.
By the end of this month, the Morobe province will make a noticeable contribution into the national government's money box. Colleen Barilai, National EMTV News, Lae.
Now, as mentioned in the beginning of the news, we now cross over to MTV's Lorraine Genia live in Lae with the latest updates on the 6th BSP PNG Games.
Thank you, Takana. Another massive day of sports here in Lae today. There was an upset in soccer as defending gold medalist Milne Bay lost to Manus Province. Western Highlands Province defeated Central 46-35 in AFL, and the Parasports were off to a good start today.
Yeah, now Lorraine, can you please tell us what the medal tally looks like now?
So far, Team NCD and Team Central took out the gold medals in table tennis. However, these are just unofficial results. Results are yet to be delivered and presented by the Results Centre, which may be happening in the next day or two. Back to you, Takana.
Thank you, and that was our sports reporter Lorraine Genia live from Lae City. Now, Lorraine will join us again in the Trukai Sports segment that's coming up later during the news. But coming up next, an injured policeman's plea to the constabulary, and experts warn on the effects of climate change. Stay with us for the details. To the news. A police officer who was shot during the Quickler supermarket robbery 2 weeks ago has come out saying he has been ignored by the police hierarchy. First Constable Bobby O'Gara of the Quickler police was shot in the foot after a shootout between the criminals. This morning he spoke of his ordeals and the experience that his family went through.
After being shot in the line of duty, Officer O'Gara says he has been ignored by the police department. It happened 2 weeks ago. Armed criminals stormed this roadside supermarket at Quickler Station and took over 100,000 kina in cash. Officer O'Gara, who was the first police officer to respond to the armed holdup, told MTV News his side of the story.
So first all open up, me looking must all open up and nanapla policeman one time me to play. M2 back him short blow also open up lo pump exchange now shoot roll now I blow me looking one plaman pudang go down. Tami pudang go down me kirap genem me pilimos leg blow me all the team finish.
After being shot, he was taken to Port Moresby for treatment, but had to wait for over 4 days before he had the bullet removed from his foot.
I think suppose me also to me die. I think all but just carry me go to funeral home. So in passing bill and police department consent or kind of me so all but carry me go to funeral home or kind of. But all look me mix him bagar up so and big player league at least me on online lo duty so at least all suppose lo working sampla good plus antin lo mi LP mi na working good plus tintin lo mi o kaino sem. So mi etu se mi o tintin to kaitin this is something mi working me it mi mas ron lo working something o kaino sem na o les lo kam na LP mi o kaino sem mi tin.
The thing Officer Ogara and his family don't understand was that his superiors and the police department did not help him over the past 2 weeks. His medical expenses were all covered by his family. His brother, Max Maguru, said he wants the police hierarchy to step in and assist them with the expense this has cost their family.
The department come forward and assist him from here on and get him to some private hospital or somewhere where he can be monitored. Because what I've been advised by doctors at Pomjan is that the likely chances of him losing his leg is high.
The Kwikila police station is also in dire need of manpower and logistical support. The station has no vehicles to patrol the whole of Rigo district. Currently, the number of police officers is below 10. Officer Ogara is one of the many police officers that have come under attacks from petty thugs and criminals in the central province and the nation's capital. Last week, a police officer was murdered in the nation's capital. Stanley Ovett Jr., National EMTV News.
Relatives of a primary school teacher brutally murdered at Marata Settlement in Port Moresby are now calling on police to fast-track the investigation. The suspects involved in the killing are still at large. UPNG journalism student Jacob Niru has this report.
The incident occurred last Saturday at Blue Corner Street, Marata Settlement in Port Moresby. According to eyewitnesses, the victim was asleep when he was attacked and killed. The victim's relatives from Kombiam Ambom district in the Anga province are mourning his death and are also calling on to the perpetrators to peacefully surrender to police. This is to allow for a complete report.
So, mi belajar sabi lo Islam manusia tiada kemem lo come forward na. Can mi belajar put him go on police na. Then mi belajar straight him also. So only using mambla timba 2x2 timba na. Only bring face belong mi belano looking.
Relatives are also appealing to the National Education Department to assist with payroll expenses.
Mambla teacher, a saving teacher lo ya. Teacher or some substantive 5 level long Murra Primary School. Na mambla big loss through law education department too na.
Meanwhile, the deceased body is now at Port Moresby General Hospital awaiting investigations by police. Jacob Niru, National EMTV News.
PNG's ocean is becoming vulnerable to the threats of climate change and overfishing. It is estimated that seas in the northern part of PNG will suffer great losses of coral bleaching and fish species. This was highlighted in the Environment Outreach Program organized by the U.S. Embassy.
Climate change and overfishing are threats associated together, and PNG may experience its terrifying ordeal in the near future. In a presentation yesterday afternoon, several climate change and environmental advocates spoke to students about this. One presenter, David Mitchell, from the conservation organization, said the Solomon and Bismarck Seas will likely be affected by coral bleaching in the next 15 years. Mr. Mitchell said this is because more carbon has been taken into the sea, and this will greatly affect the marine and people's livelihood. Other speaker, Paul Reed, policy director at the U.S. State Department, said climate change is real, emphasizing on sustainable, inclusive and transparent economic growth. He also highlighted the danger associated with overfishing, saying 1/3 of commercial fish species are at the verge of collapse.
Over 1/3 of the species of fish that are fished commercially for human consumption are on the verge of collapse. Once one collapses, there will be more effort on the next, and it will collapse, which will cascade onto the next.
On Sunday, during the G20 summit in Brisbane, Australia, U.S. President Barack Obama has announced a $3 billion funding program for mitigating climate change. Recently, during the APEC summit in Beijing, the United States and Chinese government have agreed to reduce their carbon emissions. U.S. Ambassador to PNG, Walter North, said by 2030, they aim to reduce carbon emissions by 26%.
And under the commitments made by the President in Beijing, we're going to accelerate our progress on that path and reducing our reductions by another 24 to 26% below 2005 levels by the year 2030.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
The disposal of non-biodegradable plastic bags remains a threat to the environment. PNG Sports Ambassador and environment activist Andrew Lapani is driving an awareness for Papua New Guineans to be more responsible citizens when it comes to disposing plastics. UPNG journalism student Eric Harupma reports.
During the presentation of climate change and adaptation strategies at the National Library in Port Moresby, Mr. Lepani stressed the importance of disposing plastic bags in right places. Plastic bags have the potential to pollute the environment and can cause harm to plants and animals, including human beings. The PNG Sport Ambassador said plastic bags found in the ocean and source is a result of irresponsible behavior by human beings. Many plastic bags can immediately be seen in big towns and cities globally.
Plastic is floating around in the ocean. They see something, they think it's food, but it's actually plastic. They're going down, scooping it up.
In the nation's capital, several areas were identified where plastic bags are disposed unnecessarily and continues to accumulate. Effects of plastic bags have resulted in many marine plants and animals destroyed and coastal areas infected with plastic waste.
Or chemicals or any number of things are polluting the oceans.
He also urges people to be responsible and become agents of change. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The Kina closed 10 points lower at $0.393 in the interbank market. And at Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3855 $0.439 Australian dollars, $0.3062 euro, and 44.47 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, cocoa, and copper all closed lower. Meanwhile, palm oil closed unchanged, crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 13 points higher, the ASX and the All Ordinaries both closed at 13 points lower. You're with National EMTV News, and we'll bring you news on Ebola training. I'll bring you that after the break, including more. Was headed by the World Health Organization today at 17 Mile outside of Port Moresby. Local medical officials in the field of epidemiology were given first-hand skills in wearing personal protective equipment and a systematic procedure to follow in treating suspected cases. WHO has maintained that the chances of Ebola coming to PNG are extremely low, but prevention is always better than cure. The training is part of a 6-month program on how to efficiently contain disease outbreaks in PNG. It will conclude on Friday with the graduation of participants. Due to Ebola's transmission through the exchange of bodily fluids, there was emphasis on carefully applying the personal protective equipment, sterilization and removal of the gear.
We're training them now for Ebola because it's a very relevant topic at the moment, but all the skills that they get, and even before this training that you just witnessed, is all geared towards having them prepared to handle any threat in whatever nature it may be.
Given the fact that Indonesia, in which PNG shares a porous land border with, doesn't have any suspected cases and no direct shipping routes to West Africa, PNG's chances remain extremely low. But the training also provides an avenue to better educate and equip local health officers for other potential health crises.
This is really the core training that's going to protect us from any kind of major outbreaks that come along.
Now, although the chances of Ebola coming into Papua New Guinea have been classified as extremely low, a group of selected medical personnel convened today for a comprehensive training on how to apply personal protective equipment like what I have on right now, including the proper use of a body temperature device and ultraviolet light to detect any contamination. Now, the training session here will go hand in hand with the construction of a detection facility at the international terminal at Jackson's Airport. The Health Department confirmed this afternoon that the proposed detection facility to be constructed at the Jackson's International Airport hasn't yet occurred because the National Airports Corporation hasn't secured a location as the international terminal undergoes major renovation. The Australian government has introduced a new scholarship scheme called the New Colombo Plan. This initiative was announced by the Australian High Commissioner to Papua New Guinea, Deborah Stokes, at the Australian Awards Scholarships pre-departure briefing. It's an exchange study program between Australia and Papua New Guinea.
Since 1996, over 2,000 Papua New Guineans have studied in Australia under the scholarships program. PNG politicians, businessmen and women, including senior public officials, are now Australia Awards alumni. Ms. Stokes announced the New Colombo Plan and said under the scheme, the Australian government provides scholarships for Australian students to study for a part of their degree at universities across the Asia-Pacific region, including Papua New Guinea.
With fellow Australian students, you could also alert them to the possibility of studying in Papua New Guinea under the New Colombo Plan. Under this scheme, the Australian government provides scholarships for Australian university students to study for a part of their degree at universities in Asia and Pacific, including Papua New Guinea.
Leadership is the key to effectively deal with recurring issues that hinders the provision of goods and service delivery. The Gender Equity and Social Inclusion Initiative, supported by the Personal Management Department, will increase awareness and promote equity across the public sector.
We want you to benefit from your study, and we want Papua New Guinea to benefit on your return. And also we want to be proud of you. You are about to embark on what I hope will be a rewarding, professional and personal journey.
Stokes said education brings opportunities and transforms lives. She challenged scholarship recipients to return to PNG and contribute to the nation's development. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Tertiary students in the 2015 academic year will benefit from the new loan scheme. The new scheme, introduced by the national government, has been included in next year's national budget.
Treasury Minister Patrick Pruitt, speaking at the budget lockup today, said the national government has introduced the new students' loan scheme effective as of next year, 2015. It is a scheme students with limited tuition fees can borrow from.
By providing 10,300 thesis scholarships and by introducing a student loan scheme.
While the government continues to prioritize in key sector areas like education, next year's budget sees a fair equal distribution to all tertiary institutions. 62.5 million kina is the slice of the budget that will rehabilitate higher education's infrastructure.
62.5 million kina provided for 7 universities, 40 million for 13 technical colleges, 40 million for 8 teachers' colleges, and 40 million for 8 nursing colleges.
Mr. Pruitt said the 2015 national budget is family-oriented that provides opportunities to Papua New Guineans. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
50 soccer balls were donated to students at June Valley Primary in the attempt to involve students in sports. The donation, made by the Australian Federal Police, is based on an initiative by a young Australian boy to donate soccer balls to disadvantaged children around the world.
June Valley became the first school in PNG to be part of the Mac Miller soccer ball donation, a donation targeting young children in developing countries to engage in sports. At the presentation today, the Assistant Commissioner for AFP, Alan Scott, encouraged the teachers and students to teach their children about sports and the opportunities that come with sports.
What we've done here today at this beautiful primary school here in Port Moresby is give 50 of these soccer balls that have been donated by Mac Miller, this young Australian boy who has a great vision and a great inspiration.
The investment of the soccer balls to June Valley is an exciting experience for most students, especially when soccer is a popular sport.
It's a great pleasure for the Australian government to sponsor, I should say. And thank you to Mac Miller, who has a dream of this donating.
Ed teacher Mrs. Winifred Iamo told MTV News that the donation will go a long way in helping them to teach students basic soccer skills. She said sports and education come together as they both require determination and commitment. She said for those who cannot make it through to higher education, sports will provide them the other avenue to excel. Taklagunga, National, MTV News.
And that report concludes our news segment tonight, but do stay tuned. We've got True Kai Sports coming up next, and all the updates from the PNG Games. We are live with Lorraine Genia after this break.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome to True Kai Sports. Well, as you know, MTV is currently providing a comprehensive coverage of the BSP PNG Games in Lae City. You can follow updates on Twitter using the hashtag PNG Games or check out our updates on our MTV Online Facebook page. Now for an update of the games played so far, we'll cross over live to MTV's Lorraine Genia in Lae City.
Thank you, Takana. In day 2 of the BSP 6th PNG Games, an impressive 318 para-athletes took to the Sir Ignatius Kilaga tracks, and despite the blazing heat, it was a great day for the parasport fraternity. Technical Director for Parasport, Sophie Tuna, said the Games this year marked a milestone for Special Olympics PNG, as this was the first time for athletes with intellectual disabilities to be recognized for their efforts.
Athletes with Down syndrome competing for the first time in the 100 meters. We also have athletes with intellectual disability, the ones with speech or hearing impaired classified as deaf, and the ones classified under ambulant.
Today, para-athletes competed in the 100-meter sprints, javelin, discus and 800 meters in their respective categories. Team Bougainville showed greater strength in the 100-meter sprints today, while New Ireland Province remained strong contenders with 400-meter gold medalist and 200-meter double silver medalist Jerry Lalarabin and ambulant gold medalist at the 2013 NGI Games James Sokotti. Results for day 1 will be verified overnight, as all results need to comply under the International Paralympic Committee's classifications.
18 athletes with disabilities, but they're competing in both athletics and powerlifting. And powerlifting starts on the second week of the PNG Games program.
Big matches in soccer in day 2 of competitions, with host Morbe meeting rivals West New Britain. The biggest upset, defending champions Milne Bay losing to Manus. Jeremy Moggy was at the LFA grounds this morning.
To the match, Team Milne Bay coach George Bukoya had said that his team had arrived in Lae with modest expectations against an in-form Manus side, recently crowned best of champions. With a downpour the previous night, conditions were always going to be difficult on the pitch. Manus had had a number of their squad attending training camps at senior level leading up to the PNG Games, and were clearly the favourites. But it was Milne Bay getting the crowd on their toes with enterprising forays into the Manus defence. Manus, for their part, had taken their opportunities early and defended their 2-goal advantage until the last few minutes of play to win.
Very great. When we win, it's to me, like, it really boosted up my morale after winning the Best Cup. To beat the Milne Bay as the champion to the PNG Games. It's a very great to me. I'm very happy.
Instructions was to keep our head, keep our format, not to get overrun by, the informed team. But the boys did that. They went back. They played according to plan, and I think that 1 goal came as a result of that. We just ran out of time.
A 0-0 draw followed that match as hosts Morbe went face to face with West New Britain. The hosts, slow at first before settling in well. West New Britain showed no signs of nerves, attacking far better at times against a young Morbe side. Well-worked through balls by Morbe failed to break the WNB backline, with the turf again proving a hindrance to fluid play. The match getting physical as well. 90 minutes of football played could not break the deadlock. Highly entertaining, 21 shots on goal combined, 3 yellow cards, and a capacity crowd over here at the LFA to watch Morbe continue their campaign after the 3-0 draw with West New Britain. Other results had heavyweights Medang defeating the Eastern Highlands 3-0. Jeremy Moggy, National EMTV Sports, Ley.
Still on soccer, the technical director for soccer for the PNG Games has threatened to suspend all soccer matches starting tomorrow due to water and sanitation issues at the LFA Park. Joseph Eladona has given the organising committee until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning to give a favourable response to Aussie rules, and despite some uncertainty yesterday, Team Western Highlands defeated Central 45 points to 35 to register the first AFL win in the Games. Sylvester Gowie reports.
In the opening match this morning, a determined Team Central put on a fighting performance before going down to Western Highlands. Western Highlands scored 6 goals and 9 behinds to defeat Central, who scored 5 goals and 5 behinds. Despite waterlogged conditions at the Eriku Nile Reserve, both teams put on a thrilling performance. The women games were also played today, with Lorobe, NCD and Western Highlands taking part.
In the last week, heading towards the games opening, we were only told that the games were pushed forward to start on Monday on the 17th, which was yesterday, and which was also a problem with us, with getting our tickets to get up here as soon as possible.
9 provinces are represented in the men's AFL, while only 3 tender for the women's. Tournament director Rex Lecker says this was due to funding problems faced by respective provincial teams. However, he was happy to see AFL being included in the PNG Games to give exposure to the many raw talents.
It's a good start for us. We had 10 confirmed teams at the beginning. Coming towards the games, a couple of provinces had to pull out due to financial crisis, which we couldn't blame. But we were really happy with the HOC to give us the opportunity to take part in these games for the first time, and which was, I think, which is a really good. Just by looking at the crowd here today, it looks like it's going to be a really good week for us as first timers.
Game draws for the next 5 days have also been completed, with women rest days confirmed for Wednesday and Friday. The PNG Games will also be used to scout for new talents for the PNG Mosquitoes AFL team. Sylvester Gowie, National EMTV Sports, Ley.
In table tennis, both Team NCD and Central have taken out gold for the respective men's and women's team events, wrapping up yesterday's games. Central women's team defeated rivals NCD, while NCD secured gold in the men's team events.
Table tennis kicked off to a great start of games in day 1 at the Sir Ignatius Kilagi Indoor Complex. As a sport exhibited in the 6th BSP PNG Games, the popularity of table tennis shows prospect to grow. Only 4 teams are participating in table tennis, with NCD and Central dominating the matches. Competition was tough in the women's team event. In Game 1, Central made their mark by holding off Morbe scoreless 4 points to 1, while NCD locked Manus 5 points to 0. NCD sparked new rival as they edged out Central to secure the first gold medal of Day 1 with a 3-0 victory. But Central put up a strong fight against NCD and turned the tables in the men's team event to take gold 3 points to 2. Manus, capitalizing on their senior players, edged out Morbe to take bronze for both the men's and women's team event. Scholar Stengi, National EMTV Sports, Ley.
Meanwhile, the PNG Games ambassador Toya Whistle has called on athletes to commit themselves in their sport in order to achieve greater results. Toya was a product of the first PNG Games held in Goroka in 2003, and from then she has excelled to be the South Pacific Sprint Queen. Sylvester Gowie met up with Toya Whistle at the 6th BSP PNG Games this morning.
Toya Whistle is a success story of the PNG Games, formerly known as the Grassroots Game. She was first scouted from the 2003 PNG Grassroots Game in Goroka when she was representing the Western Highlands province. Today she looks back at all the struggles she faced to be who she is now. There were a lot of sacrifice.
For my experience, sometimes we don't have food. The organization, they didn't provide food properly. We all been hungry. But, you know, as God's plan, everything in life is possible for individual and in a team sport.
The Whistle family are no strangers to the PNG sporting arena and the PNG Games itself. Elder sibling Kopun Whistle is a PNG sprint champion and he is representing their own province, Diwaka, in these PNG Games in Leh. For Toya Whistle, as success are all credited to Kopun as a role model.
Kopun is my older brother. He was there for me, like when I need help from beginning when I started. He was there for me, encouraged me, and I was seeing him as my role model, and he was keep encouraging me and be strong, and and that's what brothers and sisters encourage each other, and that's what he's been there for me all since then. And now I'm a PNG rep now in South Pacific.
Encouragement to other athletes, especially young people, is to be committed in the sports they represent. Toya Whistle wants to see more young talents scouted from the PNG Games to represent their country abroad. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV Sports, Leh.
And Toya Whistle's inspirational story topping off tonight's sports update from the PNG Games in Leh City. Back to you, Takana.
Thank you. And that was Lorraine Genia with all the updates from the PNG Games. Stay tuned. True Kai Sports continues after the break.
True Kai's.
Good to have you back with True Kai Sports. Turning overseas now. On the eve of the one-day international in Canberra, the Australian cricket team had more than a game on their minds. Sure, the captaincy speculation continued, but a trip to the War Memorial reinforcement showed that there's more to life than cricket.
Courage comes in many forms, and the Australian cricket team got a history lesson today of battles and heroics far greater than the sporting paddock.
They would find out that he was 14 and 9 months old. He's the youngest known Australian serviceman to die at war.
So many young men sacrifice their life not knowing exactly what they're going into.
A brief reality check, and then the business of cricket. Will Shane Watson put up his hand to captain Australia should Michael Clarke be unavailable?
Well, I wouldn't say no, that's for sure. To have the time that I've had the privilege of captaining Australia was certainly incredible to have that opportunity and honour to be able to do it. So, but look, there's a few people that are well in front of me to get the captaincy.
All very diplomatic. But who's Watson's preferred captain?
Michael Clarke.
In the heart of Australian politics, a very political answer. And that set a trend on leadership issues within the team.
Canberra's a place renowned for leadership struggles. How's that worked out with George taking over?
That's a good one. I like that one. That's the best question. Sorry, what was the question?
Comparisons on the politics of cricket and of the nation had Lehman in stitches.
No, it's fine. There's no spill. No, it's all good. Yeah.
Lehman may have missed his calling in that other Aussie sport, the politics of Canberra.
And True Kai Sports ends on that note. The weather details coming up after the break. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, late evening showers, then fine weather expected tomorrow in Port Moresby. In Momase, all centres, a shower or two expected, showers in Leh City. In the New Guinea Islands, all centres to look forward to fine weather. And in the Highlands region, all centres showers, then morning fog, except Mount Hagen, evening showers, then morning fog. Now before we go, quickly recapping our main headlines tonight. 16 billion kina budget passed today by the government. Also, opposition number increases as MPs cross floor to lobby for alternative government, and injured police officer appeals to hierarchy for support. Well, that's been the news, sports and weather for Tuesday tonight, November 18th, 2014. From the news team, I'm Tokana Hasavi. Before we go, we leave you now with pictures from our Lay outside broadcast team from the PNG Games. Good night.